I was only 9 years old at the time this happened. My memory is a little fuzzy on the small details, but I remember vividly how terrified everyone was. I'll explain as best I can. It was December of '96, and my family went Christmas shopping at the mall. It was my mom, my brother, and sister, along with my mom's friend Kelly and her 2 kids. I was the youngest of everyone. We all lived in a really small town with not a lot of places to shop, so we drove an hour away to the nearest big city. We made an entire day out of it, picked out some clothes that we wanted, and enjoyed a meal along with the Cinnabon at the food court. The 90s was a great time. The day was nearing the end, and us kids were ready to go home. But before leaving, our moms wanted to check their messages. For people that don't know, back then you could use a payphone to listen to any messages that were left on your answering machine at home. It seemed pretty high tech back then. Us 5 kids were waiting next to our moms by the payphones. I remember seeing Kelly hang up the phone with a stunned, concerned look on her face. She called my mom over to her, almost in tears at this point. We all noticed something was wrong. Kelly explained that there was a disturbing message left by her ex-boyfriend. She was already engaged to another man that lived in Utah, where she planned to move in a few months. She had broken up with this other guy 2 years ago, so just the fact that he even contacted her was weird, let alone the eerie message that he left. Kelly gets back on the payphone and calls again to let my mom listen to it. I never actually heard the message myself, but based on what I was told from my mom, it sounded like this.
Do you realize your mistake yet? For leaving me? I know you went out of town today. You should have invited me. No problem. That just means I get the house to myself.
Kelly didn't live with this guy. They never lived together. It was just her and her 2 boys. She tried to call her fiance in Utah, but he was at work and couldn't get a hold of him. All 7 of us loaded up in the Suburban, heading home. Us kids in the back were unusually quiet. We were busy eavesdropping on our mom's conversation. They hadn't told us the full story at this time, but what we understood is that it was possible that someone broke into the house. After the hour-long car ride, we pulled up to Kelly's house where we planned to drop her and her kids off anyways. There was a discussion of what they should do. My mom didn't want to just drop the 3 of them off and drive away with a potential jealous boyfriend waiting for them. In hindsight, I'm not sure this was the best decision, but all 7 of us got out of the car and went into the house to check it out. Kelly's 2 boys were 14 and 16 and strong for their age, so maybe bringing us was better than just 2 females. For the most part, my sister and myself stayed by the front door, while everyone else was searching the house looking for this guy. First, they covered the ground floor, double-checking in any and all places that he could be hiding. Everyone was whispering to communicate, probably so they could be able to hear anything moving around somewhere. But this just made me feel even more scared, that a man hiding and waiting for the perfect time to jump out and kill me is a strong possibility. They didn't find anything out of place on the first floor. They went upstairs to check all the bedrooms and bathrooms, while my sister and I stayed put. After 10 minutes of searching the place top to bottom, they didn't find anything. Kelly guessed maybe her ex was inside the house before but left. We all felt a little relieved, discussing how crazy this all was. My sister and I felt that the coast was clear to roam around the house. This is the part of the story that I remember as clear as yesterday. Everyone was downstairs except for me and Kelly. I was in the hallway, looking at Kelly standing in the doorframe to her bedroom. Suddenly, we heard a noise coming from above us. We stood still and locked eyes with each other, confirming that we both heard it. She looked up to the ceiling and put one hand on her mouth as she was shocked at what she saw, but also trying not to make a sound. She pointed up to the entrance of the attic. The door that covers the opening wasn't resting flush. It was crooked and off to the side, as if someone was up there. Kelly quietly directs me downstairs and out of the house, along with everyone else. She runs over to the neighbor's house to call 911, while the rest of us waited in the car with the doors locked. We kept an eye on the house, waiting for police to arrive. Once they did, 2 officers went in searching the house and the attic. After 15 minutes of searching, the officers come outside without a suspect, but told us what they found. The door to the attic was not offset as Kelly described. It was now closed properly. They searched inside the attic and didn't find anyone or anything, but the back window to Kelly's room was now wide open and the screen was off on the ground outside. Her ex was most likely hiding in the attic waiting for her to go to bed. Once he heard a bunch of people in the house and suspected he was discovered, he tried to get out of there without being seen. I honestly don't know if she pursued charges after that, or at least a restraining order. You would think the message that he left was pretty good circumstantial evidence. Kelly and her 2 kids moved to Utah right after that. She had a good reason to rush into beginning a new chapter in her life. Our families lost touch over the years, but I'm pretty sure she never had to deal with him again. This story is kind of long, but I'll try to make it as concise as I can be. In 2018, I moved into my girlfriend's house, my now wife, Shelby. Also living there was her 6-year-old daughter, Riley. It was a 3-bedroom house with only 2 of them being occupied. Having a spare bedroom was a nice luxury to have. That is until Shelby informs me that one of her friend's apartments burned down and needed a place to stay. This friend of hers was Amanda. I had only met Amanda a few times, and she seemed like a normal girl, until she recently had gotten hired at the same place that I worked. And since that happened, I thought less and less of her. She was the gossip queen of the place. Employee drama always had her in the middle of it. She even tried to get one of my work buddies fired, accusing him of harassing her, which I knew was not true. HR moved him to a different shift because of it. All of this within the first 2 months of working there. I explained to Shelby what a bad idea this was to let her stay with us, but she explained that Amanda and her have been friends for years, and they both had 6-year-old daughters that were also friends. I begrudgingly said okay, knowing full well that it was going to end bad. Once they moved in, it was awkward. I felt uncomfortable having this person that I did not like or trust living under the same roof, and I think she could sense it. I avoided her as much as I could and kept all my responses to her to a bare minimum. I felt relieved when I had a reason to leave the house. A terrible way to live. 1 week into Amanda moving in, Shelby mentions to me that a number of her bras and underwear are missing. At the time, we both didn't think much of it. It's easy to misplace articles of clothing while doing laundry. But the next day, before going to the gym, I couldn't find my headphones. I was extremely irritated because they were an expensive wireless headphones that I had recently purchased. As I was waiting in line to buy new ones, I couldn't help but think that Amanda had something to do with it. Later that night at work, Amanda approaches me and asks, "So who do you think is the best looking girl here?" This was the most out of the blue question I've ever received. I didn't even talk to her. Why would she break the ice with this question? But I knew exactly why. This was a trap. She wanted me to answer so she could tell Shelby that there was someone at work that I was attracted to in order to create tension in our relationship. My only response to her was, "Leave me alone." What happened later that night was the final straw for both Shelby and I. As we were all sleeping, me and Shelby in one room, Riley in her room, Amanda and her daughter Katie in the other. Shelby is awakened by a creaking noise outside the bedroom. We sleep with the door slightly open, and she could see someone was standing there peeking in. She thought it was Riley at first, but got out of bed to realize it was Amanda's daughter, Katie, and Katie had a concerned, angry look on her face. "Katie, what's going on? What are you doing?" Katie didn't answer. She just glared back at Shelby. That's when I woke up, wondering what was going on. Katie had a look that I've never seen before, an evil kind of look that should never be on a 6-year-old's face. I woke up Amanda to come talk to her kid. Amanda tried to bring Katie back to bed before we could get an explanation. I demanded an answer. "Katie, what's going on?" She responds with, "Why are you trying to kill me and my mom? Why did you try to set us on fire?" Mine and Shelby's jaw dropped and looked over at Amanda. "What the hell are you telling her?" Amanda tried to play it off as she just has a silly imagination. All the character flaws that Amanda has is one thing, but now telling her 6-year-old daughter that we tried to kill her? That crossed the line. That is just plain evil. I told them that they can't be here anymore, and they need to get a hotel for the night and pack up everything by tomorrow. The mental sickness that Amanda has now infiltrated her daughter's mind. I took the house keys from Amanda and helped them move their belongings by putting it all out on the front lawn while they were at the hotel. As I was going through all her things, there was all of Shelby's bra and underwear, plus my headphones. Amanda never showed back up to work either. I haven't seen or heard from her since. I heard through the grapevine that she started to see a therapist. I really hope she gets the help she needs and passes it on to her daughter. When I was 3 years old, my dad passed away, so as far as I can remember, it's just been my mom and I. We lived in a pretty decent-sized home, sort of out in the country. One night when I was alone, sleeping in my bedroom, I heard a rustling noise outside my window. We lived in somewhat of a ranch-style home that was one story, so all the rooms were ground level, and outside my room was knee-high tall grass. Any movement nearby, I would be able to hear it. At first, I dismissed it as a raccoon or a skunk. Rodents such as that were pretty common. But unlike an animal walking by, the noise didn't seem to stop. It sounded like someone was standing out there and moving around to get a good look into my room. I rolled over in bed to see what it was, and there was a man staring directly at me through the window, peeping on me as I sleep. I screamed the loudest I've ever screamed and ran into my mom's room, telling her what I saw. She didn't hesitate and locked us both in her bathroom and called police. I wasn't just crying, I was hyperventilating to the point that it was difficult to breathe. Police showed up and searched the property, but didn't find anyone. I only saw this guy's face for a brief second, but I could never forget it. I gave them a detailed description thinking they would be able to find him, but that never happened. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and no word from the police, not even giving me photos of possible suspects to look at. Ever since that night, I would sometimes hear that same rustling noise as I'm trying to sleep. I don't know if it was all in my head from fear or it was really happening, but I always had the blind closed since then. Fast forward 3 months. My mom hosted a dinner at our house for a handful of co-workers of hers. She was pretty high up in the company that she worked for and wanted to do this as some sort of a team bonding experience. I was kind of nervous for the whole thing. I was just a 14-year-old girl at the time, but really wanted to come off very polite and mature like my mom. But the dinner party didn't even get a chance to start. As the guests were making their way in, I suddenly got this sick feeling in my stomach and began to have difficulty breathing. I ran to my bedroom overwhelmed with the same emotions that I experienced 3 months ago. My mother followed me to my room to ask what was going on. As I'm crying, I tell her that the last man that walked into our house was the same man that was peeping on me through my window. She doubted me at first, but my visceral reaction alone allowed her to believe that it was possible. I couldn't forget that face, plus this certain way that his hair rested just above his eyes triggered my response. My mom asked to speak with him outside and told him what I accused him of. At first, he steadfastly denied it, but with her persistence and unique people skills, he sheepishly confessed. He was a young 22-year-old guy fresh out of college and had only been working for the company less than a year. He began crying, telling my mom that ever since he saw a picture of me on her desk, He felt a twisted fixation and couldn't get rid of it. He even pulled out his phone to show her pictures that he had taken of me in my bed. She wanted to rip this guy to shreds right then and there, but instead calmly said that she was going to report this and that he no longer can work for the company. She called police and told everyone else to go home. When police showed up, he told them exactly what he told my mom and showed them the pictures. He was charged with trespassing and stalking of a minor and given many hours of community service. The way my mom described his demeanor confessing to what he did was that of a scolded puppy. Puppies are harmless. This guy's actions tells a different story. I am now the same age this guy was when he decided to prey on a 14-year-old girl. I couldn't imagine one of my friends doing this. What a sick world we live in.